Hey everybody, it's Leeroy from Leeroy Gaming, and in today's Pathfinder Wrath Righteous video, we're going to be looking at all the possible Crusade system units that you're going to have access to if you choose to go down the Aeon Mythic pathway. Now, in this video, we're going to be looking at information on which ones you're going to be able to recruit, what are the choices, their stats, their abilities, how they kind of look and move as well as attack in combat as well. And I'll give you my personal feedback on which ones I find more or less effective. Now, if you find videos like this helpful and you want to see more of them, and you want to support this channel, make sure to like, subscribe, smash that notification bell, and very importantly, drop a comment. Let me know how I can improve these videos, what you like, what else you'd like for me to cover, because there's so much to cover in this game. So let's go ahead, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in and take a look what's up with the Aeon units. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start by looking at the Fire Elemental. Now, the Fire Elementals are one of the first two units you're going to get to pick. Your choice is going to be between a Fire Elemental and a Water Elemental. Now, do note, whichever one you choose as part of this decree in Act 3, you're going to be able to summon every couple of days, and you're going to get roughly about 10 Fire Elementals, or I think 8 or so Water Elementals. Now, this is the primary way of summoning these. You can't get them from buildings or anything else, but you can also use the Call to Arm abilities that I'll show in a little bit to kind of min-max your favorite unit, and I'll show you exactly how to do that. Now, the Fire Elemental is the highest DPS of the kind of first tier of elementals. You're going to notice that they're kind of squishy. They only have 86 hit points. They have an ACO 19. Now, they do have Power 20, and Power 20 is important. Also, do note they have energy resistance, but this is not because of them. This is because of my healer, or my hero, rather. So this is applied based off of a decision I made in the campaign. However, all the immunities are normal, so poison, disease, stun, critical hits, precision damage, immune to all of those. Also, all the elementals are immune to their own energy type. So fire, for this in this case. Also, they are immune to sleep, paralysis, and being stunned. Now, they do get an effect called burning, so the unit attacks apply an effect that deals power times d6 times unit's fire damage for 3 rounds, so every round. Now, this calculation uses the unit's power, not your power of your leader. So the power here is 20, so it's 20 times d6, meaning it can be a baseline minimum of 20 damage, or as much as 120 times the amount of units. So in my case, times 158 units here. You'll also notice when I get attacked by enemies, they do damage back. This is not a unit ability, and it confused me for a while. What this really is this retaliation of the chains ability that is of my particular general. So do note that when you watch the attacks here, that is not part of the unit. What you are going to see is, I'm going to show you here moving up. There's the movement, full fire effect, and they do a respectable amount of damage there. So there we go, and a proc the double attack. Now next we're going to have the Water Elemental. First things first, they're going to be tankier and slower. So notice they only have a movement of 3 instead of 4. Way more hit points, 259. More AC, 26. All the resistances and immunities are the same. However, notice the power of 6. This is a big deal, because they also have an ability called Freezing. It's actually the same as the fire ability. It does damage for 3 rounds. Same calculation, but however, instead of having a power of 20, it's a power of 6. So this is really only 6d6 times unit numbers. So just do note, if you choose this, you're going to have a tankier elemental that does a lot less damage. It also only does 4 to 12 base damage, so that's quite a bit weaker. If you're going to do most of your damage with backline units that do range, and you just want to use these to distract the enemy, then that's perfect. Because as you'll see here, again, I had high morale, so I double procced, but a lot less damage here. Now, in Act 5, you're going to get access to 2 more elementals, and you're going to, once again, have to pick between an air elemental, which is going to be, it's not necessarily going to be high DPS, but it's going to be higher DPS than the Earth Elemental, as you'll see here. So, the big thing here is it's very mobile, as you would probably imagine from an Air Elemental. It has a speed of 6, so 6 spaces, 160 hit points, so in between the water and the fire elemental, 24 AC, which is actually quite high. And when you go down here, you're going to notice it does 8 to 13 damage, which again, nothing that great. And the biggest thing I noticed here, and it basically does no longer has the ability to do those kind of damage over time effects. So this is just a very mobile, decently tanky unit that does kind of a moderate amount of damage. So as you can kind of see here, again, I only had 50 of them, but those are those for you. And then finally, when it comes to elementals, you can choose to, instead of getting the air elemental, you can choose the earth elemental. And these are the big lugs, quite literally. Speed 2. These things are slow. They also have a low initiative, you'll notice, so just very slow. Now they have huge AC, 30 AC. They have 432 hit points. Really, really high hit points. But their damage is pathetic. We're talking about 1d8 minus 3 damage. And this is like with my multiplier here. So it's only 1 to 5 damage each. However, they do have an ability that's called all-around defense. And this means they cannot be affected by flanking. So in Pathfinder, it's kind of interesting. If there's 2 enemies adjacent to you in the game, you're going to be flanking, which will normally give them a bonus to hit, for example. So they can't be flanked, but as you're going to see right now, man, they are slow and lumbering, and they do almost no damage. So we have 40 of them, and they literally do a predicted between 2 and 606 damage. So they kind of look cool. They're literally just out there to take a beating, but that's about it. Now, it's also important that alternatively, if you do now want to choose the air or the earth elemental in Act 5, you can choose these guys, get the Kineticists. And I actually highly recommend these little guys because they have a really, really cool ability that is going to scale really, really well when you get a lot of them. Now, you are going to have to use call to action to get a lot of them. I have 311 of them. So if you use the normal decree to get them, it's going to take a long time. But as you'll see, their damage potential is huge because they have 33 power. That is a lot. They only have 80 hit points and 19 AC, so you got to keep them behind. They don't have all the fancy immunities that the elementals do, but they get 4 different spells. What's important here is you get both Lightning Bolt and Scorching Ray. The reason it's important that you get both of these is that certain monsters are going to be immune to lightning, some will be immune to fire. Most of them aren't immune to both. And then you also get Cone of Cold. There's definitely no monsters that are immune to all 3 as far as I know. Now take a look at the scaling. The Lightning Bolt damage is power times d6 times units, as we knew, just with the elementals. But again, remember, you are going to get a 33 base instead of 20, which is the absolute best potential of your fire elementals. Also, obviously, this is a ranged attack. And if you use Call to Arms, because they only take 55 experience, this means you can summon a ton of them. The way that Call to Arm works is that every enemy has a value, and the higher the value, the less of them you're going to get when you go and summon them using Call to Arms. So if you have a high DPS unit that basically doesn't have that much EXP, you can summon a ton of them. Now your Scorching Ray, do note it's the same ratio. You also get Cone of Cold, which can hit multiple enemies, but it only has a range of 4. And then you can also offensively cast or defensively cast Stone Scum on an enemy. But let's take a look at this lightning and show you how much damage it potentially does. So if you look at here, this can potentially do between 10,000 and 61,000 damage already when you cast it, which is quite potent. Especially if you have a caster general, you're going to be able to get opportunities to cast their abilities numerous times. So take a look at this. And just absolutely annihilated all of them in one hit. So very, very, very potent. Okay, now towards the end of Act 5, or Act 5 progression, you're going to get one more option to choose between two what are called Grand Tier units. And so the first one you get to choose from is this Kolyarut Inevitable. They're these kind of mechanical units, and they are extremely tanky. They have a movement of 4, which is fine, but they have 32 AC with a damage reduction 7. So that's 7 per unit. And notice this exception dash. This means that nothing bypasses it, pretty much. And so they're very, very tanky. They are immune to a lot of elements. So mind affecting, fear effects, compulsion, poison, disease, charmed, can't be stunned, death effects, or sleep. You also can't paralyze them. You can't go to sleep, can't stun them, can't make them nauseated, fatigued, or sickened. Their damage is also very respectable. It's 57 to 65 in my case. It's 1d8 plus 49. Your problem is they cost a massive 1,375 EXP, meaning they are very hard to stack up. The decree, I believe, only gives you 1 or 2 of them, so you are going to have to use call to action to build them up. But the idea of these, as if with all the high-end units, is that they're hard to take down. So you'll go and attack, pull the animation. They don't do crazy damage, but they're not going to die. So I'm just going to skip the turn, see if we can get them attacked. You're going to kind of see these 85 units, probably hit them like a wet noodle. Oh, just kidding. They're just going to ignore him. So, again, that is this unit here. Now, there is another alternative unit that is very imposing, and I'm going to load up a different save because obviously they're mutually exclusive here to show you the other really amazing looking unit. Okay, so the final unit that you're going to have an option to get is going to be the Bythos Aeon, and I wanted to jump out here for a second to show you the decree and also how to kind of get more of these. Because as you notice here, this is something that takes 2 days to solve. There's a 5-day cooldown, so the whole process is a week. And you only get 2 of them a week, basically, which is super, super slow. And they also cost a decent amount of energy points, 300. So let me show you how you can min-max these if you want to. So we'll go ahead and issue this decree, and I'll fast forward to 2 days so you can see the units pop up. So here you're going to see the Bythos Aeon. I notice they're very imposing. They're the giant size units, so they take up 4 slots. But again, you only get 2 of them. So for those of you that don't know, the way that you can min-max this is you can cast this ability called Call to Arms. All paths get this. And you can use it once every 15 days. And it basically targets a random unit in an army and gives you 750 times mythic rank value worth of these into the army. And this number, this value, is based on the EXP. So you'll notice here, this costs 750 EXP, which is about half of the other unit we took a look at. And this is important to note, because what this basically means is that if, let's say, you're Mythic Path 8, so it's 8 times 750, they cost 750 each. That means you're going to get 8 of these every 15 days, plus this 2. That's important. Because again, if you just decree this every 2 weeks, all that's going to happen is you're going to have a total of 2 per week. So you could in 2 weeks get a total, go from 2 all the way to 6. But then if you use this ability on it, you're going to get an additional 8. All of a sudden you're at 14, and that's going to stack up quite a bit quicker. Now let's go ahead and take a look. I'm going to just fast forward so we do that effect as I just mentioned, and I'll show you their effectiveness when we have more than 2 of them in a battle. Okay, and here is your final option for the Aeon units. It is this huge Bythos Aeon. So let's take a look at what he can do. Now do notice he is worth half the EXP of the alternative. So the other unit costs twice as much, and even though this one is imposing, he's technically not valued as highly. Now, what he provides for you could be useful are not useful depending on what kind of hero you have, because he's really a support unit. He's considered a spellcasting unit, Grand tier. He is very tanky, 621 health, 36 AC, which is great. Ton of power, 117 here. Immune to a bunch of stuff, including cold energy. But what you're going to notice is that he has 4 spells. And if you have, for example, a caster that has slow and haste, he's not going to be that useful. His damage is atrocious. His melee damage is 12 to 17. Now, he does have something called Aging Strike. Unit attacks apply a -3 penalty to strength, dexterity, and constitution. This does stack, it appears. But unfortunately, again, he's not going to be doing very much damage. He does teleport, so he can go anywhere on the map, which is pretty impressive. So you kind of see, looks pretty cool. But again, he did 703 damage. So really, what are you going to use it for? Again, he's pretty tanky. He doesn't take that much damage. But what you're going to be caring about these abilities. So let's take a look at those. And again, don't mind the damage, shield damage. So you're going to have Banishment. So this is important to note because this Banishment deals power times d6 times unit number of magic damage to the target non-summoned unit. So because you have such high power, again, you have a total 117 power. This is good, but the problem is it's limited by the number of these enemies. So if I were to cast the Banishment on here, I did 4.5k damage. So it's not crazy. Now, killed all of them. We could have technically done more. But the point is, until you stack them really high, that's not crazy powerful. And let's take a look at the other abilities, though. The next one is going to be Banishment Summoned Enemy. So what's nice about this is power times 6d6. So notice the other one is power times basically 1d6. This is 6 times more powerful, but it's only against summoned units. So this is bonkers. What you're really doing is 100 and what did we say? We said it's 117 times 66 times units. So against anything that's summoned, this is absolutely gonna destroy everything. Now notice this is a summoned unit. This is not, you can't target it. Now, it's just gonna overkill it. We're gonna cast it just because we can. And it did 14k damage to it. Obviously, it just did massive overkill. Now, in addition to these offensive spells, you're also gonna have 2 buffs. The one problem though is, notice the initiative on this is god-awful slow. It's 2. Meaning it's not going to get to go early. What you really want is for it to go early, because then you can cast slow against the enemy. So this is going to debuff the enemy, or cast haste on a friendly creature, which is going to make it act faster, attack faster, initiate faster, etc. So this again would be much nicer if you did it earlier. Now if you cast it on yourself, for example, there I just I thought I double proc, but let's take a look what the stat difference is now. So now all of a sudden initiative 7. So you're gonna go quite a bit quicker, but again, nothing too crazy to write home about because of your base initiative being so slow. So if you're gonna get this unit, it's probably for the Banishment and Banishment against summoned enemies. So again, here it is one last time. There we go, did 7.8k damage. Respectable considering they only have 13. But again, you would need way more of them to be effective. So, overall, what is my thought on the various units? I would say compared to some of the other Mythic Paths, the options are cool when it comes to looks, but they're not that hyper effective. The best unit, in my opinion, bang for the buck, is the Kineticist, because again, you can get a ton of them with Call to Arms, and their spells are really good. The Mythic tier units, the ultimate ones, are, because they're so expensive and none of them are that super special, not a huge fan of either. I would, however, probably pick the Bythos Aeon because, again, it does get that spell and it's easier to get more of them than it is of the alternative. The elementals are okay. The fire elemental is probably my favorite just because it has high DPS. The other ones, are pretty much all various versions of kind of tanky elementals that you can just stick out there and they'll suck up damage while your other units do damage from range, like your archers, etc. Alright guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this analysis of the Aeon Mythic Pathway units. I'll be going back and doing additional videos like this for some of the other Mythic Pathways that I haven't completed these for yet. So if you would like to know any other information or testing, do let me know. Other than that, thank you again for all the support. Make sure to like and subscribe. Drop comments as always. And I will see you guys in the next video.